is smoke. Oh my god, I see it now. Where is this coming from?
Yes, thank you. Finally.
What?
We're gonna have to start this video.
Yeah, this is getting like lengthy. Happy Saturday. It is a new week. No more strep throat. I'm feeling fine. So I decided to let my Twitter followers decide what I was going to talk about again, because I haven't run out of ideas. I just want to see what other people want me to talk about and I guess bring light to. And so I gave them a list of different topics, and it was a close call on some of them, but they wanted me to talk about neurodiversity. And if you don't know what neurodiversity is, I'm going to be getting into it in just a little bit. I'll probably be uploading another video for tomorrow, maybe. We'll see. Because tomorrow is a very special day for the LGBTQ plus community. So we'll see where we're at. Okay, so let's get started on talk about neurodiversity. Neurodiversity refers to the variation in the human brain regarding sociability, learning, attention, mood, and other functions. The term was coined in 1998 by Australian sociologist Judy Singer, who is on the autism spectrum herself. Neurodiversity can be thought of in 3 different variations: neurodivergent, neuroatypical, and neurotypical. Neuroatypical is a fairly newer term in the field of neurodiversity. People that are now characterized under this term used to be under the neurodivergent term. Okay, so first we have neurodivergent, which is sometimes abbreviated as ND. It means having a brain function in ways that diverge significantly from the dominant societal standards of normal, or what we consider normal. Some conditions under the term neurodivergent include ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, dyslexia, epilepsy, Tourette's syndrome, and so much more. There are some others that may fit under this term, but this is what I found consistent in the research. Neurodivergent is something that someone is born with in most cases. I know that epilepsy can sometimes pop up later in life, however, typically, at least in my indirect experience with it, that's how it is. So here to talk to us about neurodivergent experiences is my sister. This is Abby. She's 20 years old, and we're 4.5, 5 years apart, somewhere in that range. She mentioned the 5 earlier, but I was like 4.5, so here we go. Whatever. Anyway, so I was 4 when Abby was born, close to turning 5. So that's where the 4.5 comes in. I was so excited to have a little sister. I wanted to name her Brittany after Britney Spears, but obviously that did not happen. And like everything was like pretty typical for a while. She met all of her important milestones within the first year, and then things started to change. My parents and I started to notice that she would zone out. She would just stare off into space, and we couldn't snap her out of it. She had to come back on her own terms. And so we were all really scared and didn't know. So we took her to a doctor, and I remember some of this because I was only 4, or I was like 5. I was a young child. I was 4.5 when you were born, so I was like 5 to 6 when all this was going down. So I can't remember all of it. The doctors were like, maybe it's a brain tumor. And we were all like, yeah, we thought that you had a brain tumor for a little bit there. Is this...
Damn.
And that was like really scary. Like, you're not even 2 years old yet, and your life is cut short by something that is out of your hands. So yeah. We were terrified, scared. Both of my parents were like crying a lot. I was only 5 or 6, so I was like, I don't know what's going on, but it's not good. So we took her to all these doctor's appointments and stuff. And I just remember this one key moment. We went to a Christmas party at my best friend's house. It was like a mansion. You remember Mackie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
I went swimming there with you.
Yeah, see, okay. And we got the call that it was not a brain tumor, that there was no abnormalities of that kind there. And we cried so much. We were so happy. However, there was still something wrong. She was still having these episodes of zoning out, and just wasn't something right. And so finally they do more tests, and they found out that it was epilepsy. And I don't know why this didn't occur to the family. Like, we have a history of epilepsy in the family. It skips around a lot. So now I will hand it off to Abby in a second, but I'm going to make some note of the complications because it's something important that we need to talk about. Epilepsy can cause seizures in any part of the brain, essentially. And for one of my friends, it didn't give her nearly as many problems as it did Abby because it affected a different part of the brain. However, for Abby, it affected her temporal lobe of her brain, which affects her memory in all capacities. Therefore, I really had to help her piece together the events of her childhood because she couldn't remember a lot. And I had to take stuff from my mom, too, to kind of help piece together her narrative on her experience with epilepsy. Okay, so now I'm handing it off to Abby.
So when I got to primary school, I really struggled with everything.
Oh my god, Abby, what the heck?
There's like a fly flying in my face. They had a special device to help me with tutoring and stuff like that. That's what I'm reading. And my sister was also my tutor.
Yep.
That's what I'm reading here. Okay, we're going to scroll down. Okay. I was really limited in what I could do as well, and I couldn't participate in certain activities where my head could get injured because it could trigger a seizure. Like I wanted to do basketball as a sport.
You wanted to do volleyball too.
And I wanted to do volleyball, and I couldn't do that.
That was a mess. I felt so bad. And Dad tried to get her into golf. Like, okay. But the ball could still hit your head. But anyway, just not as...
Right in the noggin, right? But
God.
anyways, I also couldn't watch things that had flashing lights because that would also trigger a seizure. It took a couple of medication switches throughout elementary school for the seizures to finally stop happening. Sorry, stupid fly, I'm sorry. Okay. However, I was still in speech therapy, special needs classes, and etc.
So
I had to do so many EEGs.
So it's electroencephalograms. It takes a scan of your brain. Sorry, I'll help you out. Don't worry.
Or electroencephalogram.
Electroencephalogram.
I pronounced that the best I could.
It's okay.
They had to scratch your scalp.
You don't remember that? You have to scratch your scalp to get the electrodes to stick on your head?
Okay, I do not remember the scratching of the scalp.
Oh my god.
That was disgusting sounding.
You don't remember the goop?
I do remember that.
Okay.
I also had to stay awake for 24... I remember the 24 hours.
Yeah, a 24-hour sleep study was definitely... It wasn't even... It was considered a sleep study, but we didn't sleep for 24 hours straight.
I also remember y'all falling asleep while I wasn't.
And she had this device, and if she fell asleep, it would jolt her back awake. Yeah.
Love it. And everyone else was falling asleep. After the seizures were under control, something happened in the 5th grade.
Opal's like, okay.
When I was 10 years old, our dogs got out of the house, and it was really windy. It was October. I was chasing them up the street, and I was running like lightning.
She came up with that word herself. I thought it was funny. Anyway, keep going.
We get them inside, and I want to eat dinner. My dinner was green beans.
This is another key memory that she only remembers, so just go.
My dinner was green beans, mashed potatoes, and corn. I start to get...
And corn. Sorry.
I start to get a headache, and I lay down while eating. When I get up and speak to my sister, my words are slurred, and my left side of my face was numb. After that, I decided to take a nice hot bath to relax. I then collapsed on the floor, and my parents and
sister... Why are you starting to laugh?
I don't know, I could just imagine myself collapsing on the floor,
Oh my god, but no, you definitely fell on the floor, and we had to rush you to the hospital.
Yeah, it was not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing.
Yeah, I mean, I can help you, with this part. So, my parents and I, decided to, drive her to the hospital. We all went together. I think we took one car, when we were holding her in the back seat and, had, washcloths on her forehead, trying to keep her cool or whatever.
Oh, and then comes the vomiting part.
Oh my god, the vomiting.
Projectile.
Okay, hold on.
Just like
we get to the hospital and she's throwing up everywhere. They give her a pink bucket and you just like you remember that scene?
None made it in the bucket.
You remember that scene from The Exorcist and the girl's just like that was her. She was throwing up everywhere.
None made it in the pink bucket at all. Just everywhere on the floor.
Oh my gosh. And then after that, that's when they did the spinal tap. You can talk a little bit.
Oh yeah, the spinal tap. That was kind of weird.
That's when
all I felt was like I didn't even feel anything going to my back.
Really, because like what I've heard from like a spinal tap is they put a needle in like the very like back of your spine to like get fluid out, and it's one of the most painful like one of the more painful medical procedures that you can get. So I guess she was in so much pain she just didn't know how painful it was.
Well, it probably didn't hurt because I had so much blood in my spine.
Well, yeah, she did have blood in her spine and white blood cells, and like, which they still to this day can't really describe. They don't know how that happened, which I thought was always weird. So let's see, what else do we write down? Oh yeah, they put a bunch of IVs in you.
Oh yeah, they put like 2 or 3 IVs in my arm. I had 1 in each arm.
Yeah.
That was fun too. Oh, and then they injected me with that stuff. What did you
Oh
say
yeah, so they injected her with a injection dye, so she could do a CT scan, and that would light up certain parts of her body so that they could see what was going on.
And that whole time they were telling me it was just fluid, so I wouldn't like get dehydrated.
Yeah, and it's something that they don't tell you about is that injection dye, like, it doesn't hurt, it just feels weird.
I could literally feel it going into my system.
It's a very weird sensation. I haven't had it, but she has, and I've heard about other people having it, and it's just not very comfortable. So
no, I could literally feel it going into like my veins, and like I could feel it going down my legs and everything, and I was just like, this is weird.
Yeah. I
was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks, and they were finally able to figure out weeks later that I have complex migraines, which are typically a complication from epilepsy. I still have complex migraines to this day. And
she would have had one like last week, I'm pretty sure. Or was it 2 weeks ago? I don't know.
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah.
But every single time I get a headache, I have to take ibuprofen on the spot, and if it does not help, then I have to go home from work, or
and if it still doesn't get better, then we have to take her to the hospital.
Exactly.
So it's a
fun thing to have. Because of all this, I have pretty severe memory problems. I can't remember much up until I was 10. I have a hard time remembering what I did yesterday.
From day to day, she won't remember. Like, you don't remember, like, what you did yesterday. Like, you remember some things, but not, like, everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of, that helps a little bit better than a couple of hours. I'm so sorry. So that was my sister talking about her experience with having epilepsy, complex migraines, and being considered neurodivergent. Is there any last remarks you want to make to the people of YouTube?
Opal does.
Yeah, she's been like crying.
Peace out.
Peace out, Girl
Bye.
Scout. Okay. Okay, so this is just like a disclaimer. My sister and I like to laugh a lot. We're very chaotic, and so I'm sorry that if we laughed about, I guess, some sensitive topics concerning neurodivergence and like her epilepsy, but I mean, she's been free of seizures for she's 20, I want to say 13 years. She has migraines from it. So when we talk about it, sometimes, we laugh now. Back then we didn't. But that's just one of those things that we've done to cope with it, essentially. So now we have neuroatypical, which is an umbrella term inclusive of people with diverse mental and behavioral disorders, such as mood, anxiety, dissociative, psychotic personality, and eating disorders. These disorders used to be under the neurodivergent term. However, that was changed because it was just too broad of a category. So Unfortunately, I can speak on the experience of being neuroatypical. I feel like I've had a lot of my mental health diagnoses for quite longer than when I was initially diagnosed. I have experienced some trauma, so some of these diagnoses might kind of fit into each other. So I have generalized anxiety, I have social anxiety, I have fear of medical procedures and tests or tomophobia, some kind of depression, and then it comes and goes periodically. And then I do have complex PTSD. And so when I was younger, when I was a really shy child, I believe I started developing social anxiety. It was just kind of one of those things, and then my dad has it too. It just happened. I don't know. Like I can't explain like how it happened, but I had my first panic attack during a presentation in the 7th grade when I was 12. And I remember just my chest tightening up and like I was anxious, and it's just like I had not had that feeling before, and I was like hyperventilating and it was awful. And so from then on, like I've always had a hard time like standing in front of people and doing something. I've always had this fear of not being good enough, this fear of that I'm going to mess up in front of them. But it eventually developed into social anxiety. And so like all these symptoms that I'm talking about, I had them all throughout middle and high school. And no one really thought to take me to a counselor until I was 16, which was the best decision ever. He was the coolest counselor ever. Now we get to high school. Throughout high school, I had panic and anxiety attacks daily, but still managed to have good grades, so people didn't really think of it. They were like, oh, she's just an overachiever. Like, that's how it goes. Like, that's what it is. But I was also starting to develop depression and had insomnia. I didn't really sleep a lot. I had internet friends across the world because like I didn't really feel close to my other friends, and I would talk to people. Like I had a friend from Australia. I don't talk to her anymore, but I talked to her for God knows I would talk to her for hours and be just awake and talk to her about me being like suicidal, being a cutter, being depressed, all these things. There was even a moment in time where I was starting to slowly develop an eating disorder. But one of my family members scared it out of me. So that's fun. And when I say that, like, I mean, it was not like oh, I didn't eat for like a meal, haha, or whatever. Like, this was going on for a couple of months, I want to say. And I did lose weight, and I had like, I don't know if you know what thinspo is or anything, but I had like pages bookmarked on Tumblr and like followed like pro Anna and pro Mia websites to help me. These were not good times. I hated myself. I had been through some things, and I was basically like just a ticking time bomb. I made a memo to myself that I thought I wouldn't live to see 18. I was really not in a good place. And when I said I wouldn't make it to 18, it was because that I felt like I was going to kill myself or do something that was going to take my life, regardless of what it was. Putting myself in dangerous situations, etc. I had written suicide notes way too many times. And despite all of this, I still managed to graduate within like the top 20% of my class. And because of that, nobody looked past my good grades. They just saw a teenager that was doing good in school and had some minor issues and just marked it off as a phase. And it never was a phase. It still affects me to this day. I graduated. I went to college and things got like a lot better. The anxiety and depression were still there, but a lot better. I started seeing a counselor on campus and started seeing a counselor off campus because it was more convenient for me that way. And then my sophomore year came around and my friend ended her own life. And that just, I made a video about it earlier this month, but it just destroyed me entirely. Months later, I had tried to take my own life. It was August 3rd, I think, months after she had gone, and then my best friend ended up having to drop out of college, and she was my roommate, my best friend, and I just felt so alone. And at that point, I was like, I just don't want to be here anymore. I was really sad, and just things were just crumbling around me, and I did not want to see it all fall apart. With that said, I finally got fucking diagnosed. Excuse my language. God. Like, I had been on Prozac before that, but that didn't do anything. Prozac is awful. Get off of your Prozac, I'm telling you. It took so long to be put on a right medication regimen and to be diagnosed. And as a mental health counselor now, that is just really sad because people are suffering, especially during a pandemic. I can't even begin to fathom. It took so freaking long to be properly diagnosed, to have the medication, all of that crap. It baffles me. It really does.
Okay, and lastly, we have neurotypical, which means having a brain that functions in ways that are within the dominant societal standards of normal, or what we could consider normal. So these are your people that do not have the mental disorders or the learning disabilities or any kinds of things like that that disrupt normal functions of the brain.
That's all that I have to talk to you about neurodiversity. I'm sorry if it was an absolute train wreck. Whenever my sister is around, we get very chaotic. So I hope that kind of helped her expertise in neurodivergence, since I'm not neurodivergent, but I'm neuroatypical, and I hope it helped to see my side of the story. And there's nothing really to talk about neurotypical people, just normal functions, typical everyday functions of the brain. So there, you might get some extra content from me tomorrow, because tomorrow is a special day. I will not say what tomorrow is yet, but if you're LGBTQ+, then you know. So yeah, that's all I have. Nothing special. So bye.